to the latest episode of Seismic Cinema. I am James, aka Captain Eddie Smith, and alongside me we have Colin, aka Fabrizio De Rossi. How you doing, Colin?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. Just sad that Paul isn't here to share his distaste for the film.
I mean, suppose it would be good to have him here to get different kind of opinions on it. But we're here today to review the 1997 classic Titanic. Okay. So before I do get started and discuss that, I just want to go and do a wee bit of housekeeping. So for you guys who are watching on YouTube and Spotify, you can follow us on Facebook, X, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can also check us out and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcast from. There's plenty out there.
3 new subscribers this week on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic! Oh,
possibly bots.
Possibly bots. We'll see. And you can help buy me a new mic by donating to buymeacoffee.com/Seismic Cinema. I was getting a wee bit of jet on the What's the Script podcast the other day during the Rocky 3 podcast, which was a very good podcast, boys. Well done, keep it up. But they were giving me a wee bit of grief saying that I couldn't afford a mic, and us being teachers, we should be able to hold a mic. And that's all good banter, guys. Don't worry, I'm not offended in anything, so it's all good. And last but not least, we are part of the PodPack collective. There's quite a few members on that now, so if you're interested in checking the PodPack collective out, then go onto our Twitter page and check out the link tree, and you'll see all the new members. And yeah, do check them out because they're trying to make the indie podcast scene a better place to be, good community, and help them grow their channels as well by liking, subscribing, and all that.
Fancy taking a humorous trip down a random topic each week? You do? Well, you're in luck. Casting Views, presented by me, Dan, and a host of guests, bring you just that. With topics from the world of entertainment, science, sport, and everyday life, there's bound to be a topic that's going to inform and amuse. Catch Casting Views every Sunday on all listening platforms now.
So we are here to discuss the 1997 classic Titanic. So before we go into the massive review, I just want to talk about synopsis the film, do a wee bit of seismic statements on it, and then we'll do a wee bit of talk about the characters, favourite scenes and kind of themes with the film and all that sort of stuff. So all good, Colin? Ready to go ahead?
Yep.
Right, okay. All right, so a brief synopsis of the film. It is a 17-year-old falls in love with a kind but poor artist aboard a luxurious, ill-fated RMS Titanic. 84 years later, a 100-year-old woman named Rose tells the story about her life set in April the 10th, 1912 on the ship called the Titanic. A very brief overview, certainly, but so one we'll get our teeth into shortly. So, as I said, it was released in 1997, directed and written by James Cameron. It stars Leo DiCaprio, Kate Winslet, Billy Zane, Kathy Bates, Bill Paxton, and a lot more than that. The budget was $200 million, and it grossed just over 200 billion. Sorry, 2 billion. Sorry, not 200 billion. 2 billion. So it's done pretty well worldwide. Right.
Do you know the movie cost more to make than the Titanic cost to build?
Yeah, I bet it did. So when your trivia's getting flung in there. Aye, good.
Just thought I'd steal in there.
Aye, keep them coming. I didn't look at any trivia for this film, to be honest with you. I'm hoping you're going to be throwing a bits and bobs into that. And
I mean, I started looking at the IMDb page, but just some of the pages are quite short. It just went on forever. Like I would have been here in 3 hours' time, like the movie, if I'd read them all.
Yeah, the runtime for this film is just over 3 hours. I think it's like 3 hours and 17 minutes or something like that. Don't worry, the podcast won't be as long as that. We'll try and keep it short and sweet.
It's not. It's a bit like Wolf of Wall Street. Maybe it's just the Leo effect, but it doesn't feel like a long film to me. The only reason it felt long is I watched it in segments because I'm at work term time, but it definitely doesn't miss a beat in my opinion. But we'll discuss it as we go.
Aye. So, I want to get your kind of background to the film before we go into the review, Colin. So, do you remember when you first seen the film?
I've just got like snippets of watching it, like when I was young, kind of like primary school, probably in the kind of 90s, and it's just one of those films that everybody knows because of the iconic score and just the visual of the characters at the front of the Titanic, and obviously the fact it's based in real world events, which were obviously thrown back into focus last year with the tragedy that happened with the submersible, and I think it was last year. Me and Paul were actually going to review this like a year ago, basically, and it didn't happen. I'm not sure why it didn't happen. Probably Paul went AWOL because he didn't want to review it. Paul, you will be listening to this as you edit, so please tell us why you hate this film. You're keeping it really quiet. And I think it was when I watched it last year in anticipation of reviewing it. I think that was the first time I looked at it with a kind of critical movie loving eye, and just watching it that time and this time, I've just got so much appreciation for the film. I know it's a spoiler for later, but I do think it's a masterpiece.
Aye. Paul, yes, I agree with Colin. Please tell us why you hate the film. If it's got something to do with, going to the cinema with an old girlfriend or something like that, and you broke your heart, then I completely understand.
I don't think Paul had girlfriends in the 90s.
Well, 97. I was in. Aye, well, I keep forgetting.
Me and Paul were only 6 at this point.
So I was an S1. So I thought, aye, you guys are 6. So that's fair enough. Then okay, I take that back. Aye, so I'm saying, mass. I did see the pictures. You see snippets of it in the telly and that. I mean, I think as you grow older, this film, as you say, because it's based on real life events and the tragedy that happened, you begin to appreciate it a lot more, and then you appreciate the film for the characters in it a lot more as well. So, as I agree, it's certainly a good film. You call it a masterpiece.
It's only got, I think, similar to Shaun of the Dead, what we're talking about. I think it's only 7.9 out of 10 on IMDb. I'd love, to me, these scores for Shaun of the Dead and Titanic are ridiculously low. I think they're way better than 7.9.
7 point. There's a lot of folk who don't like this film, to be honest with you, but I think the vast majority of people, do like the film. I was reading it when I checked over about the budget and what it made back and things. It seemed to be that people went to the cinema to see this more than once because of how good it was.
I think Paul must just have loads of fake accounts on IMDb.
Yeah, he's got loads of burner accounts on there. He's bringing that down. Right, okay. So we are going to kind of talk about the characters first and foremost. Like I say, I'm not going to break down the film scene by scene. I think we could maybe talk about the scenes later on, but I wanted to get into a wee bit of character development and how they perform the role of a few characters. So I've got the main characters obviously written down as well. I've spoke about the architect, and one guy I don't like, and I want to hear your thoughts on him as well, was the guy who owned the company, White Star Line Company.
Right.
Now, I want to come to him last. I think it's probably what we'll talk about first. I want to hear your thoughts on Rose. So Rose was played by Kate Winslet. So obviously her character was she won the best actress for this, didn't she, in the Oscars? And I absolutely agree with it. So, what is your take then on Rose? And let's say her full name here written down. So it's Rose DeWitt Whittaker. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got it written down as well. It's something like that. Obviously, there's two parts to Rose. So there's obviously old Rose and younger Rose. So which one are we going for first?
Well, we'll go with young Rose.
I think, see, at the very start of the film, you don't really know her at that stage, but I didn't find her particularly likable at the start because you don't really know that she's got this backstory of like her mother and her fiance being really controlling, and the fact that she's like essentially willing to take her own life. But I think when she meets Jack in the film, that's when her personality really comes out, and she's got this kind of really free spirit, and it was just really nice, despite the chaos going around them, to see them having like such a great time. And I like that, like, see, at the end of the film, she had her Rey Skywalker moment where she takes Jack's surname, and I like that she kind of lived out the life in a sense that they had wanted. And she's still quite, this is going forward to the older Rose, but she's still quite mischievous at the end when she throws the treasure into the ocean, and she has a good laugh about that. And you begin to feel really sorry for her, like her mother and her fiance, who both survived, which it really angered me that they both survived. They're just horrible, just the way they were controlling her life, and how the mum was just so selfish. There was a bit where she said something like, "Are they organizing the boats by class or something like that?" And the bit when she's about to jump off the boat was tragic. That she was, it seemed quite sudden as well, that she was just at this stage where she was willing to jump off the boat rather than face her life. But I don't really blame her, because the fiance's, I think he's one of like the biggest villains in movie history, by the way. Me and Aileen both hate him with a passion.
Aye, Billy Zane.
Mm.
Aye, he is certainly a villain and a half. I wonder if Paul likes him or not. We'll need to find that. Maybe. I'm joking. Well, Paul jokes away now. I'll stop moving the Paul jokes. So I agree with you. You know, she's kind of trapped. Rose is kind of trapped, isn't she? Because she's having to kind of marry this guy because, you know, her mum and her dad have lost the money, really, haven't they? Mm-hmm. Well, he's went away, left the money, and certainly she's got to marry Cal, played by Billy Zane, to try and bring their life back up to what it was.
Because he comes across as like he's different in front of like his friends and his peers. It's when they're alone together that he's like at his worst, I would say.
Cal?
Yeah.
Aye, 100%. So I think she kind of feels like she's, you know, she's wanting to you know, kill herself, throw herself off the boat because she just can't. She seems out of place with society, doesn't she? It's like being in this kind of environment isn't for her. She doesn't want to be, you know, suffocated and trapped being in this kind of upbringing. So much so that she wants to, you know, throw herself off the boat and things like that. So, definitely something that you see Rhodey's transformation, because as she begins to meet Jack, you can see that, you know, she's becoming more of a free spirit and just breaking that kind of part of the kind of upper class away, and it's almost as if she wants to, you know, she was born to be with as that you know, Jack's class. She's born to be that way. That's what she wants to be. She doesn't want to be controlled. And Cal, obviously, and her mother as well, I say, are controlling parts of her life.
It's a strange film in a lot of ways, because like it's so tragic and sad, but I feel like for like the first half of the runtime, it's really hopeful and fun and kind of. It's quite a feel-good movie for the first half. Like people are just going on an adventure, this like big opportunity, and it's such a strange film in that way because it's one I really enjoy watching, even though the subject matter is obviously serious and sad at the same time.
Can you imagine being part of, being on the Titanic though, like when it was going to set off? It was an adventure. Do you know what I mean? It was. It's like this is like a massive, like a big kind of. No, I want to say holiday as such, but it's this is a massive boat. It's going to New York, wasn't it? I think it was going. I think I read this as well. I could be wrong. So if anyone out there who wants to correct me in this, then please do so. Was it going from? It left from Southampton.
Yeah.
And it was going. Did it go to Paris first, and then New York? I don't think it said that in the film, but I think I read that it went to have done that.
I'm not sure. Do you hear a fun fact?
Yes.
I've been to the Titanic Museum in Belfast.
Right.
Which is pretty cool. Like where.
Oh, right. So I thought it was more that story. No, it's just.
No, that's the story.
Right.
Just thought it was relevant to the pod.
That's fine.
You
sport on Northern Ireland top as well, I see.
Yeah, I got a wee fakey Northern Ireland top on for the podcast.
Northern Ireland there. Right, okay. So you said young Rose, so let's go and speak about old Rose then. Older Rose rather.
So I've got a few wee facts about her. So the actress, Gloria, can't read my writing. Sure.
Gloria Stewart, yes, that's it.
She was in her 80s when they filmed this, so they actually used a lot of makeup to age her up, so she looked 100, which she was meant to be. And what was also quite interesting was that the actress died when she was 100, which is the same age that Rose died in the film.
Oh, a shame she died, but it's interesting.
I actually forgot. So when I watched it that time around, I forgot that she actually dies at the end of the film, like warming her bed. There's obviously so much happening at the end.
I'm going to come on to that at some point as well. Have you seen? I'm kind of off on a tangent. I'm going to go back onto characters in a minute, but as we talk about the older Rose, have you seen the alternative ending to this film?
I haven't. No. So, the ending, where she just kind of throws the heart of the ocean in the water. Mm-hmm.
Well, there's the scene where she goes on to the boat, and she's kind of leaning over it, and
I thought she was going to jump.
It's the same scene, but the what's his name? Bill Paxton's character sees her, and her granddaughter sees her, and they jump down to try and save her, and she turns around and she's got the heart of the ocean in her hand, and then it's like Bill Paxton's character, I can't remember his name now, come to me. It's like don't throw it in the ocean, and he gets to hold it, because she gives it to him to hold, and then she takes it off him and throws it in the ocean again, and a wee laugh type of thing. So that still happens, but you just see more of a connection between. So he sees the heart of the ocean, he sees the diamond, and he's like, so he had it this full time, but she never told anyone. But he got to hold it, and I'm going to come on to the end of the film later on, but I just wanted to bring that up there now.
I'm surprised that she kept it in some way, because it was obviously given to her by her horrific fiance. So I don't know. I felt that maybe she would have wanted to get rid of it.
But that's what I'm going to come on to, man. So the symbolism there, which I'm going to come on to, which I think anyway. Right, so we'll probably jump back into it at some point. Next character, and since you like him so much, in fact, we'll go with Jack Dawson first. We'll go with Leo DiCaprio's character. What is your opinion of him?
Leo's just the goat, isn't he?
I like him, man.
I know you're a big Leo fan with Shutter Island, and don't know if we can review Wolf of Wall Street, but we could try.
I don't think we get very far.
We could review the safe bits. Nah, he's just great. You forget how young he looks. Like even Leo wouldn't date Leo in this film.
Oh, excuse me. He might be 17 years old in the film.
I don't buy it. Well, He does look young, but nah, he's just great, isn't he? Just from the first scene where he's playing cards, just the whole way through the film, and you can really relate to him. There was a particular scene where he's sitting at the dinner table, and I can't remember what the woman was called. What's her name? Is it
Oh, it's Molly.
Molly? Yeah, I wrote down that Molly's really nice to him. I thought she was really kind. She was kind of like looking out for him, giving him wee tips on how to fit in.
Yeah,
And
so sorry,
Sorry,
Colin,
go.
that was played by Kathy Bates. So
Mhm.
so she was very kind to him.
Yeah.
Actually.
The other thing I wrote down is Leo is me when I'm out for dinner. Like I never have a clue what all these fancy nice forks are. I love it.
So seeing that, I'm going to go back to Molly in a wee second as well. But, well, I'll go back to Molly now. So Molly was nice to Jack, in my opinion, because Molly, she's different from the rest of them as well, because Molly's from New Money. So
Mhm.
there's, even though there's classes in the boat, there's classes within classes. So you've got
Mhm.
Cal and you've got, Rosie's mother, who are all basically from old money. So the rich of the rich. So Molly's came in, she's of New Money, and then even within them, there's class divisions.
Yeah.
And you've seen when Jack, so see when Jack and Rose have the spitting contest over the boat,
Mhm.
and then when they turn around and Jack's got spit on his face.
Uh-huh.
So that was when she had a kind of, Molly knew that Cal was an idiot. There's a lot better words you can use, but we can't use them for these podcasts. But certainly, she knew that really that Jack was meant to be the one for her. Do you know what I mean? I think that was quite clear, and she helped him kind of get dressed and helped him with his class and how to eat properly and all the rest of it. So that was nice.
Something I came across was there was quite a few improvised scene or bits in the film. The spitting scene was totally improvised,
Right. Interesting.
and there was another one. See the line about see at the end of the film when Rose is saying like this is where we first met. So Kate Winslet improvised that scene as well, and there was quite a few lines throughout the film I thought were quite funny. There was one about Freud, and there was one about Picasso.
Aye, that's right.
What was it was actually said? I wrote it down. There's a lot of good lines in this film. It'd be cool to cover some of them.
So
Someone just wrote, it's about the artwork. It's like something Picasso, like basically like who's that, or he's never going to amount to anything or something like that.
He's not going to make it. Aye.
They were quite funny.
And then at the table, she spoke about Freud to the boy Bruce Ismay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and he's like, Freud, is he one of the passengers? So it's like, so I really like Jack. He's I've written in Free Spirit. He's I like the way that he wins the ticket at the poker match. You already get an attachment to Jack because he's so happy. He says he's going home back to America, and you kind of feel attached to him. So yeah, Leo's a man, isn't he? Leo is the man.
Yeah. What's your take on the whole iceberg? Do you think she could have let him up, or the raft or whatever they're on? Do you think she could have let him up instead of leaving them in the water?
On the door. Nah, man. I think that it wouldn't have physics. They're both sank, surely.
He was being chivalrous.
I don't think that. Jack was meant to have died at that point. He was saving those. He wasn't saving himself.
Do you know? I saw somewhere that there was a J, not necessarily a Jack, but there was a J Dawson that was on the Titanic.
All right.
Which because I think Jack and Rose, well, I think Jack particularly wasn't meant to be like a real person, but I think Rose was loosely based off of a real person. Because there was somebody called Rosalie Ida Strauss, I think it was. She was basically like a real life survivor. She was offered, well, not survivor. She was offered the chance. No, she was a survivor. She was offered the chance to go in one of the boats, but she refused because she wanted to stay with her husband. And apparently, she used the line "Where you go, I go," which they then took into the film.
That's right. So I've written here. His selflessness and him saving Rose rather than himself shows that he loves her, and basically he's a hero to Rose, and he's a hero to us as well. Do you know what I mean? It was such a sad moment when you could see him just kind of drowning, and obviously he died by that point anyway, and she had to get him off so she could save herself. But that was his what he wanted. He wanted her to go and live a life and be a free spirit. That's what he would have wanted, and that's what he got, which I'll come on to again. So, can you talk a bit more about Jack? We'll probably go into more anyway when we talk about scenes, but we've got a couple more characters to go on. I don't want to spend too long on them, but Cal Hockley, Colin, what is your take on him? One of your favourites?
No, I just hate him. There's just so many bits from pushing people off the boat. I actually forgot the part where he's running about trying to shoot Jack as well.
Aye,
he's just horrible throughout the film. Like the fact he survives and the fact that Rose's mum survived does really anger me. He's just so sexist, abusive, controlling. You name it. He's ticked them all off.
Yes.
But he's obviously, it's a great performance by the actor so you hate him that much. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. He's done his job, hasn't he? So I've said he's so possessive. He's control. He manipulates people for his own benefit. And what he does at the end as well, he goes in that boat. He take the child as well.
Steals a baby or something.
Yeah, he's a baby stealer. You know what I mean? He's ticked them all off, man.
He's got no redeeming qualities.
No.
I know we said we wouldn't rip Paul anymore, but I've got one more. I know who Paul's favourite character in the film is.
Cal?
The iceberg. Sorry.
Aye, that's the iceberg's his favourite character.
Done now.
Oh, good. He's just a total bad guy, isn't he, man? He's probably, he probably is one of the main, one of the biggest villains in film history.
He's worse than Umbridge. He's worse than Vader.
He's even worse than the hunter that shot Bambi as well.
Yeah, he's not. Nah, don't know. But he did. Well, you hear near the end of the film that he suffered during the financial crisis and took his own life.
The Wall Street
which Rose seemed quite happy about. Well, she appeared to be.
Yeah. So I don't like him either as well. What was it said here?
The mum's just as bad, Rose's mum, by the way.
I know, I didn't want to go into too much detail with all the characters. We could be here all day with them, but we'll move on then. So again, we'll come back to some of the scenes that these people are in anyway. But Thomas Andrews, who's the architect, who don't really a big role as such, but an important one, I thought.
Yeah, obviously it's basically just like, you know, the phrase like fat cats, all these rich people, they're so proud of what they've constructed and they're just boasting. Who was the character that was wanting them to go like as fast as they can to create headlines? Was that him or was that someone else? Remember there was somebody who was talking about them making the journey as quick as possible to like show like how great the Titanic is.
It's Bruce Ismay, that's the guy. That's the person who owns the company.
Yeah. So I don't really recall too much about his character because there was a few characters like similar to him that were involved. There's also the captain as well. You don't see too much of them, but it was they're just obviously we as the viewer know what's going to happen, so it's quite interesting hearing them boasting about how like unsinkable the ship is. And do you not realize looking back on it how many times they mentioned like icebergs were mentioned, like, oh, I'm keeping an eye out for this, or
Aye,
it came up quite a lot.
I've got that in my foreshadowing bit, so I'll come on with that one.
Mhm.
The architect, very minimal part, I think, but I think he's important. He's got a presence about him. Quite a silent guy, but I think whenever he speaks, you listen to him.
Mhm.
You know, it's that way. This guy, he's so intelligent. He he built this. It was his kind of his blueprints that made it all, and I've said to you as well that he takes great pride in his construction of the ship, and he was one that when he kind of didn't say it outright, but he was one of the ones that kind of advocated. Is that the right word?
Yep.
Unsinkability of it.
Mhm.
And he was kind of buying into that. So Bruce Ismay, who was the guy who owns the company, who put the money into the Titanic, he was piloting this as to be this ship was unsinkable. It's all the rest of it. And he was kind of buying into that, probably because basically he was getting paid to kind of be the architect of it all. I think he was just kind of buying into that. But what I liked about this guy was he seemed to remember everybody's name. There's a bit in the film where Jack is trying to get into I think it's the say canteen, whatever, do you know what I mean? And he meets the guy, he meets the architect Thomas, and he goes, because he just met him the night before. But Jack is a nobody, really, to these people. And he says, "Oh, hi Jack, how you doing?" Whatever, and he's looking for Rose, and he says she's in there or whatever. Any other person within that would never remember his name, but he did. He had the time for that, and I think it just goes a long way, certainly. So I quite liked him. There's a bit in the film as well where it's like this ship can't sink, and he goes, "Well, in fact, I think you'll find it's made of iron. It's very much sinkable." So he's once went from it's unsinkable to okay, it can sink. It's made of iron. Of course it can. And then he says the words as well, and I've written this down. Mathematical certainty is what he says. It's a mathematical certainty that this ship was going to sink.
That's not very reassuring, is it?
No.
I'm just thinking there, like, I think you said you saw it in the cinema. I think I just saw it on the TV in the house, but
No,
this
I
would
didn't
have
see
been
it.
I thought you said that earlier. This would have been a great film to see in the cinema. Imagine this on at the big IMAX. It'd be incredible.
It's out for Valentine's Day, I think. Well, I don't know actually if it was, but anyway, what the last character, Bruce Ismay, was the managing director of White Star Line company that owned the Titanic. He was a very wealthy man, influential figure, and he was the epitome of success. This guy, I don't know if you paid attention to this guy. This guy, I had his name a minute ago. Have you seen Jumanji, the original?
Yeah, not New Year's, but yeah.
So he's played by Jonathan Hyde, who played Alan Parrish's father.
Jonathan Hyde sounds familiar.
He played, I'm sure he played, what's his name? Alan Parrish's dad in Jumanji.
Right.
And also played the Hunter as well in it. So he's in. That's where I recognised him from. I was like, that guy's in Jumanji.
Richie Rich as well.
Also, he is, aye. This guy was, again, he's an Alban who's like a wee rat. I mean, on the boat. At the end, he just cared about Andy, other than his company and money. I just didn't like him, and he was the guy who didn't know who Sigmund Freud was.
There's a lot of it's a big theme of the film, isn't it? The whole kind of class divide and the rich versus the poor and all these things.
Absolutely, 100%. Right, okay, so let's move on. And can we talk about your favourite scenes in the film?
Scenes. I've got loads of I don't know if we're going to come to this, but I've got loads of quotes, just ones I picked out that I thought were particularly good or memorable.
Well, we can kind of filter in the quotes to the scene.
Yeah, there's I think a good scene's when old Rose is taken to see the painting which she claims is her. And she's saying like she hadn't seen it in years and all that kind of stuff, and it's quite an emotional moment. She's obviously seeing something she's not seen in like kind of 80 odd years, and she says that the woman in the picture is me, and then one of the lines she says is, "Wasn't I a dish?"
That's right. Wasn't I a dish? That's right.
I thought Old Rose was pretty humorous. I think some of the best scenes are actually Old Rose for me, to be honest. See the scene at the very end when she's kind of talking about Jack and how she's never spoken about him to anyone. And I really liked the line. I can't remember the exact wording, but it was all about he saved me in every way that a person can be saved, which is true physically from jumping off the boat, but also kind of giving her life again and a bit of fun before he ultimately perished. But I think Old Rose's scenes are some of the best in the film. I think she comes out with some really good heartfelt quotes as well.
Aye. Well, I'll kind of follow on then. The closing shot for me, right? So just look at Old Rose there. But I've got quite a few iconic scenes, but this one I'm going to say, since we're kind of following on. So I've said, see, as she dies at the end, the whole scene where you kind of see the kind of passing through the shipwreck, and it's the images of the Titanic and all that, and it's when when the camera comes back out again, she's reunited with Jack, in the staircase, which is a prominent figure rather. So she's with Jack in the afterlife.
Purgatory is very lost light, wasn't it?
Aye, that's right. So that was a lovely moment. Do you know what I mean? It's they've been there waiting for her all that time. So I've said the scenes are a reminder of love and legacy. So
do you think also that her time in the Titanic with Jack was like probably like some of the happiest times of her life because she'd had such a like controlled, sad life before that? So do you think that's why she went there in the afterlife, specifically to the Titanic, even despite the tragedy?
That's it. I mean, she was willing to die there with Jack. She could have left in the boat before, but she chose to stay with Jack. So I think that from that, knowing that she would have definitely have always went back there, because it was one of the happiest times of her life. Because she was, in my opinion, she was released from that kind of. She was being controlled, and she's now the free spirit like Jack is, and that's what she's always wanted to be. So, definitely. It's quite a sad film, isn't it, at the end when you see that?
It's very powerful though. I think that's what really adds to the rewatchability is those really powerful scenes. And I didn't realize that the song, the Celine Dion song, I didn't realize that was explicitly written for the film. I just assumed it was a beloved song from the 90s that was in this, but it was actually written by Celine Dion for the film.
Aye, that's right. Another one you might.
You got to the absolute, probably most iconic scene is obviously the is it I'm King of the World?
It's the first one I've written down.
That's just such a feel good. Like, I don't particularly like water, so I wouldn't have been too pleased being up close to the boat at the front. But it's a really kind of classic scene, and obviously his kiss with Rose at the front of the boat is probably like the most iconic romantic scene in movie history, possibly. I don't think I can think of anything more memorable and a kind of romance setting in a film than that.
No, I don't know myself.
It's certainly one that comes to mind. There's a really funny scene. It's not. I hadn't really noticed it before, but you know when under like really kind of minor characters but great characters is the violin players, how they just keep going to the very end. But there's a bit where, what's the words they use? It's been a pleasure playing for you, gentlemen, this evening, or something. Right at the end, and when I heard that, it triggered something in me. And I remembered at the start, which is something we're reviewing in March actually, at the start of the Simpsons movie when Green Day are playing, and the barge essentially breaks in half like the Titanic, which I'd never really thought of before. But the members of Green Day actually quote that line when they're kind of riding away.
I can't remember that. Honestly,
At the end of it, it's like they're just playing the violin, and they're like, "It's been a pleasure playing for you guys this evening."
No, I can't remember that one at all. See, I'll go back to the King of the World one. So I've written down here as well. See, before he gets to that point, King of the World, it's quite a good kind of montage there. They're running through the boat to get to the end of there. And I've said, when you're going through the boat, you see the different types of people who are on the boat. You can see that at the start anyway when they board it. But when they're running through the boat, you can see the different classes within the ship. So when the good camera shots of that, and of course, I'm King of the World. It's definitely an iconic scene. Another one which I'll probably come on to. You cannot not see this. So, Jack, I want you to draw me like one of your French girls. That's one of the iconic scenes.
I'm just waiting for the podcast image to be James lying on a couch.
This is Anna lying on the couch. You've offended Paul the most in this one. That's not me. So
it's Seismic Cinema tradition. We make fun of the person who's not here.
Well, I didn't get it last week. I must say when you did Shaun of the Dead. So
you probably did at some point.
You said I killed with zombies. That's fine. Yeah. So he's drawing me like one of your French girls. So obviously that I've said here that it's a pivotal moment in the relationship because it shows a growing intimacy and connection. So that was obviously an iconic bit for that moment for them to go grow closer together.
There's a bit earlier where he's shown all his paintings, drawings in his scrapbook. There's a fun, I don't know if you know this one, but it's quite a fun one. James Cameron has a cameo as like one of the hands turning the pages.
All right, I know he was something else as well, I'm sure.
He does. I think he does a voice over the tannoy at one point. But it's James Cameron's hand when they're kind of turning through, but because he was left-handed, they had to use some kind of trick to reflect it, which was quite cool. The coolest facts I found out about this film. Actually, we can finish this section, but there's two things I really want to talk about.
Okay.
At some point. I don't know whether now or later is better time.
I think the iconic scene, is the sinking of the boat. Is that what you wanted to talk about?
Kind of.
Oh, well, let's put it in. Let's just fit it in there.
Right. So
before you forget,
there's two things. I don't know if it was done intentionally because there was a lot of edits done to the film, but 2 hours and 40 minutes of the film is the start of the sinking to the end of the sinking, and apparently that's the length of time the actual Titanic took to sink from hitting the iceberg, which I thought was really cool. And the collision in the movie with the iceberg takes 37 seconds, which apparently is what happened in real life as well. So I thought that was really cool, whether intentional or unintentional. But the coolest thing I think for me is half of this film is basically happy-go-lucky adventure, and then the other half is like drama and like misery. But I kind of feel like the boat, do you know how the boat kind of breaks in half and there's a whole thing that it goes down, and they talked about it in the film.
Yeah.
I feel like the boat splitting in half is like symbolic of the movie. splitting in two.
All
How
right.
like half of the runtime, as I said, is so happy and full of joy, and the other half is just so full of sadness. I just kind of saw that kind of symbolism in the film. I don't know if that was something you picked up on.
No, I didn't pick up on that at all, to be honest.
I might be talking nonsense, but to me, it made sense that there is like a real split in terms of the mood from one half to the next.
And that actually happened, didn't it, as well?
Mhm.
So, but I suppose they couldn't actually have the film all doom and gloom. Do you know what I mean? They had to have some kind of story in the film to engage the audience, and that was obviously the
People would have been excited. Like if I was in 1912 and I was going on it, I'd be excited. Like we've got a paddle steamer that comes to Dunoon, the Waverley, and I got tickets for it as a wedding present. But then on the day, the weather called it off. But I kind of felt like I was about to go on the Titanic, hopefully minus the accident.
No, I don't mean. I don't mean.
I can share the
in terms,
excitement.
I mean in terms of the film. So
No, I just mean it was like that because like that's probably what it was like. The people who were going on it would have been really upbeat and excited, so it probably reflected what was happening.
So see the actual scenes when the Titanic was sinking, I thought they were brilliant. Like you can see the water coming through. Like I just can't imagine being on that, and it was so harrowing. Like the scenes in that film, see with the mother with the two kids in the bed, and they're going to sleep, and knowing that they won't wake up. Man, it's heartbreaking.
I thought the one where, you know, the bit where loads of them land in the water and they're all just like proper freaking out. I thought that one was really chilling, and also the one where they discover all the dead bodies like frozen solid. Those were quite tough scenes to watch.
Is it what's the boat that comes and saves them? Is it the Carpathia?
I'm not sure.
So when that boat comes at the end, the camera pans out and you can see the bodies all frozen. Like you're saying, man, it's like oh man, it's like I just can't imagine what people's families would have been like at the time. And I know it's like we are kind of going that journey with them through the Titanic, aren't we? Because we are Leo DiCaprio, we are Rose, and we're happy, it's all fun, but then we're still Leo and we're still Rose in this, the Titanic sinking and doing what they're doing, and and Leo gets a rough time getting chained to the pole as well, doesn't it? And
I think visceral is a really good word for this. Like, I feel like you actually feel like you're in the water with them, as you said, and you're kind of clinging on. Also, there's the part where it starts to, like, you'll appreciate this from a filmmaking point of view. As the boat's sinking more, the camera's very squint a lot of the time.
That's right.
And the boat obviously starts to go vertical. And it's that I found that bit really chilling when how do you best describe him? Was he Reverend who starts like saying all the kind of prayers and stuff. There was a line I thought was really good. He's saying, one of the characters is saying something about kind of walking through the. Oh, where is it? I've written it down somewhere. He's like, I'm walking through this something, and then Leo says, "Hurry up" or something like that. What was the exact wording?
I'm not sure.
I really want to find this bit now because it was really funny. Oh, it was through the valley of death, and Leo said, "You want to walk a little faster through that valley?"
Oh, walk through it, of death.
There's some good lines. There's quite a good bit of humor in the film, actually, even in the kind of dire moments.
Is there other scenes you want to take a memorable scene you want to talk about?
Let's try to think. It's obviously the scene at the kind of Kaylee music as well.
Yeah.
I wrote down I would rather be at that than at the fancy dinner. Like, I love that kind of music. So
Aye. Do you want to go to a real party? So that was good. That was diegetic music, wasn't it?
yeah,
Because they were actually playing this not music in the scene, and they were dancing
Yeah.
to it and all that sort of thing.
I'm glad you're here to get the right word. Something I wrote down was quite funny was there's some lads playing football with the ice after it's at
That's
the
right.
ice.
That's right.
I'm just going to spin through. There's a bit at the very start of the film over the radio when Old Rose is there, and it says nobility of the band playing to the end or something like that. So we're also talking about the violin players.
Oh, yes.
That was mentioned at the start. Rose brings her goldfish along with her on the trip.
That's right. She put out all the stuff: a dog, a goldfish.
Yeah.
Aye.
Oh, did you notice the Easter egg with the car, the famous car?
Hmm.
The car that Rose and Jack are intimate in.
Oh, yep.
Do you see that getting lifted onto the boat at the start of the film?
Oh, do you?
When all the guests are getting on?
No, I didn't know. I didn't realise that.
Yeah, you only see it for like a few seconds, but you notice it getting lifted on.
All right. What else have I
Just
got
having a
here?
wee skim through because I did make quite a few notes this time round.
I did like the scenes when they kind of cut back to present day, and you had Bill Paxton and his wee his wee lackeys there with him, and the kind of wee science guys. I like how they were. Bill Paxton was all right with it. I think he was kind of wanting to know the story, but the other ones were quite skeptical. And when it cut back to them, they were like pure on the edge of their seats listening to the story, and then it cut back to them again, and they all had tears in their eyes. Like every one of them with telling the story, that they were all crying, and that probably was a reflection on what we were as viewers as well, because we were all immersed in this story, not just the characters.
So they're the audience, really.
Aye, they're the audience. So
because the guy, the kind of nerdy guy, was he was very like doubtful.
Oh, he was. He was skeptical the whole time
about whether that was her or not.
Because he was saying that because he did his homework, because she changed her name, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
So there was no Rose Dawson on the boat.
Yeah,
he was right.
I think she just wanted to keep that. Like as she said, she never told anyone about Jack, so she just wanted to kind of keep that all to herself.
No.
Did you hear about James Cameron, like the depths, pun not intended, that he went to make this film?
I know he was on like the wee kind of submersible, wasn't he? He did it a few times and he took all the shots and stuff. So that's commitment to his cause. He wanted to do it, man. Because I don't know, I don't fancy doing that journey down there.
I made a note that he did it 12 times.
Aye.
He went down 12 times. I was just going to ask you about that. It's like, I'm not a big fan of water. Like, I can swim, but I don't like submerge. I think it's because I've always worn glasses or contact lenses. I don't particularly like going underwater. And I wouldn't do it because I think it'd be very claustrophobic being in a submersible. But how you can kind of understand why people would do it, though. That like seeing that would be like incredible. I would rather see it from my TV, but you can kind of understand it. But obviously, there was a lot of controversy about that situation that happened last year in terms of like whether people should be doing that and all these kind of things as well.
No, I mean, as long as the ability to get there is available, there's always people who would pay the money to do it. You know what I mean? And like people are genuine Titanic enthusiasts. I mean, who are so into it, and I mean, who's to tell them not to to not like that sort of thing?
I'm not on that level, but I must admit I do find the whole thing pretty fascinating.
That's what they
like kind of morbid curiosity kind of way.
It's just that I mean, you have to have plenty of money to be doing that anyway in the first place. I think
The fact the wreckage is just still there, just sitting there, and like this actually happened, I think that for me is what elevates the film and makes it that much more kind of memorable.
I know, definitely. I don't mind the water, to be fair, but certainly I don't see myself going down that deep.
That freaks me out, the thought of it, to be honest, being in those submersible things.
Nah, I don't fancy it.
No.
Foreshadowing. So I know time's ticking on a wee bit here, but we'll try and get through as best we can. So I've got there's references to the Titanic's unsinkability throughout the film. Characters who repeat and refer to the Titanic as unsinkable, and it's just overconfidence that it could, cut through any iceberg, or anything that hits really. But it obviously does hit an iceberg. And as you alluded to at the start of the pod, there is references throughout the whole film about iceberg warnings. Crew members discuss iceberg warnings from other ships, but it's downplayed because they're confident they can navigate through the water safely. But they sped up, didn't they, as well? They went faster, which meant that if they seen an iceberg, it would be impossible to slow down, and that's what happened.
It's crazy. Like, the ocean's obviously massive, though, and although icebergs are big, it's like they had so much. There's so much of the water they could have been in, and they just happened to be in that one area. It's also crazy how much damage the size of the Titanic, the damage that it causes is crazy. And obviously, it's staggered. It doesn't just like sink it there and then. It's obviously 2 hours and 40 minutes until it actually goes down.
I know. They're saying if the Titanic hit the iceberg straight ahead, it would have been fine. But because it kind of, because it moved to the side, it kind of like scuffed it, and it's kind of scraped it, and it's obviously not scraped it as such, but it's done a lot more damage doing that than it would have if it just cut right through it.
Yeah.
But that's obviously. And I want to pay homage actually to my screen name, Captain Eddie Smith, who went down with the Titanic. He was a nice wee character.
There's thingy. Is there Captain Murdoch as well?
Captain Murdoch.
Is he a captain? I just remember the name Murdoch.
Murdoch. Iceberg right ahead. Other foreshadowing in it, Jack sketches. Apparently, it says here that Jack sketches throughout the film include several drawings of Rose, often depicting surrounding water or floodboats. So the water in the Rose's picture it's kind of sensing towards what will happen at the end, and the water kind of threatens their relationship.
Yeah, how crazy are those scenes? See, when you see the kind of fine china and the fancy tables and the bar in 1912, and then you go forward in time and you see it all destroyed and underwater, and it kind of cuts between them. It's crazy just how glitzy and glamorous it was, and how it's just a shipwreck now. It's crazy.
I know, it's can't imagine. You know what I mean? Like all that, how expensive it must have been to even produce that. You know what I mean? There was
some dialogue from real survivors that was used in this, apparently, like kind of young children that survived, and there's a line, "It's only for a little while," was apparently something that was said to one of the survivors, and something about mummy, hold mummy something and be a good girl or something like that, and they were both things that were apparently said to like kids that survived the disaster, and it was worked into the film.
I didn't know that. Okay. Well, I want to talk about cinematography the visual effects before we do wrap up, man, because I want to get your thoughts on the visual effects and the kind of practical effects of the film, man. What do you think?
I thought it looked really good. Like as you said, when the boat's actually kind of crumbling and sinking, it looks amazing. Like it's almost 30 years old. The movie. It's funny. There was one scene that I right away knew there was something wrong. It's the scene when Rose and Jack are running down the corridor when like they're kind of waist deep in the water, and I was like, their faces look really weird. So I was listening to a review on YouTube, and it confirmed it. So it was stunt doubles, and they superimposed their faces back over them. I don't know if you know the scene I mean. They're running right towards the camera.
Yeah.
And their faces look a bit weird. It's not a criticism, it was just something I noticed. I thought was quite funny.
Is that the same bit where they kind of get to the door? It's kind of like a old lift.
And the guys try to let them through with the key, and he drops it. It's around about that time, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it is.
So I just looked. I was like, their faces look really weird, and then it turns out it was superimposed.
Aye.
But yeah, the film looks great the whole way through, and it holds up. I think this is a film that'll last forever.
Aye.
I don't really see this being a film that disappears from the kind of the public obsession.
Absolutely, man. It's it's like get to the staircase, all that sort of stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the sinking of the ship. I don't think it will hold up. I got to agree with you, mate. It will last forever. Just the story of the Titanic, will make people watch this film, and it was just I don't have bad word to say about it, man. To be honest with you, I think there's a couple of CGI at the start, man, because when you see the camera panning to see all the people in the boat, it kind of cuts from. Yeah, it's quite obvious now. It kind of cuts from being real people to kind of like almost like kind of Sims characters. I don't know if you noticed that or not. So it kind of,
no, I didn't notice that bit.
It kind of cuts to like kind of as if they're like kind of Sims characters, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? It's you don't see it that it's quite quick.
Yeah,
it's really probably the kind of best scenes of the film is when you see the tragedy happen and you see the water coming in, even down in the bottom of the ship, and they get the kind of furnaces and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's all getting flooded. The chambers are being flooded, and you can just see the water because it shows you at the start of the film. We get the kind of geeky guy with Bill Paxton, and he shows you the water coming out of the boat and how it's, man, as you say, half and two, and you see that.
I think it's incremental as well. Like you can like remember the film by where the water's at and the kind of water levels. And I think it's a really well paced film. Like I think considering it's 3 hours and 15 minutes long, I don't think there's any aspects that drag or slow down or you lose interest. I feel like it's a film I'm engaged with from the start to the very end.
Aye, 100%. Right.
There was a bit about there was loads of like extras for like people on the boat or people that were drowning or whatever. And again, it talks about how much James Cameron put into this film, that he apparently met with like 100 extras, and he gave them all like a kind of backing story for their character, like in terms of like a lot of them would have been maybe like based off real life people as well.
I really like James Cameron, man. I watched an interview with him recently. It was like something on Disney Channel or something, man. I think he's a genuine guy, He's people should be thankful that he done this film, because I think it was important that something like this was recognised. There'll be people who watch this on YouTube probably, or masses of fans and stuff who think they don't like this film. That's fine. I mean, people are allowed to not like films. People are allowed to like films, but people are also allowed to recognise important events in history, which is a massive part of this film. And you know what I mean. So,
what don't people like about it? That's what I'm quite curious to know.
I don't know either.
I can't really think what it would be specifically.
I don't know. But it's, like you say, 7.9 on IMDb.
Mm.
So obviously there are other movie
Other
reviews.
Pauls out there.
No, what we should do, we should review Paul, the film. And pass
We,
that
we,
on.
talk, we talked about that when we were reviewing Shaun of the Dead, which is on
Aye.
YouTube, folks. Check it out. We were talking about reviewing Paul because me and Paul, and it sounds like you as well, like that film.
Oh, it's a great film. Anyway, we'll come to that in a minute. Is there anything you want to, any more you want to say about the film, man? Because I'm kind of conscious of the time now, mate. And
I think we've kind of covered a lot of ground, to be honest, in terms of the favourite lines, scenes, characters, foreshadowing, Easter eggs. Just if it ever comes out in the cinema, I'd love to go see it. That's about it, really.
I'll get in some point.
Be interested to hear what your seismic score will be. Seismic stars.
Seismic stars. Well, since I'm hosting today, Colin, I'm going to give you the opportunity to go first. What is your seismic star?
I do. I know it's our own thing that we made up, but it is quite difficult because as people who listen regularly know, we're not ranking against every other film ever, but I think this film would come out quite strongly in that regard. It's as an individual film, and I'm very prone to giving tens, but if I'm being completely honest, in terms of cinematography, action, dialogue, stakes, humor, happiness, sadness, I think it has to be a 10, to be honest, for me. Like, I can't really pinpoint other films we've reviewed. There are things we're not as keen on, but I can't really see any weaknesses in this, to be honest. So I am going to give it 10 seismic stars. I don't know why I'm feeling regretful about that, but I'm just going to go for it.
Just try to convince yourself. Listen, see, if I was watching this as my, was 12-year-old self when this came out, I would be watching the film like this is, kind of lovey-dovey type thing, without recognising the events, at the time. I think I gave this a 9 before. But see, it's funny when you start to talk about films again and you realise how good certain acting was, how good the visual effects are, cinematography, and all that sort of stuff, man. So for that reason, I'm going to agree with you, mate. I'm going to go 10 as well.
Full house. It's hard though, because I think we joke about the fact that sometimes you'll give things 10s, I'll give things 10s, but I think on the whole we are quite balanced. I like to think we're balanced, and that if there are genuine things to criticize, we will criticize them or mention them. But I just honestly can't really think of anything that I think is weak or could be better.
If I did have a criticism of it, it would be the song "My Heart Will Go On." I don't particularly like it, but I understand why it's used.
That's a hot take. I think.
I understand why it's used, right? So I'm not going to stand in the way of that.
I think it's really powerful at the end. See the very end, when they're in the water. I think it's really strong at that point.
No, of course.
Yeah.
My personal gripe for the song does the impact, how strong, how it is for the film. You know what I mean? How powerful it is. You can't take that away. But aye, man, that's 10 out of 10, man. I thought my 12-year-old self would say that when it came out, but like you said,
I'm really glad to have reviewed this because, as I said, me and Paul wanted to review this a year ago, and Paul conveniently, so I can't even remember why we didn't do it, but I am glad. I'm glad to get this one under the belt.
So what happened? So Paul's agreed to do this in the past, and then he's wimped out twice, it seems. He
said he was gonna. What was he doing? Did his hair or something tonight, or was it just pulling a sickie? But anyway, he basically then admitted that he didn't like it and didn't show. So if he's here for Seismic Soccer next week, then we maybe grill him at that point.
Who's hosting Seismic Soccer? Is it me?
Well, Gary talked about maybe taking a wee go, or we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up then, so that's us done Titanic 1987. So if you have any thoughts, opinions, comments on anything we've discussed, then please feel free to comment on YouTube, on Spotify as well. We'd like to hear your thoughts on what we think of the film. So yeah, all good, man. So before we did this today, I should have done this at the start, Colin, but I'm doing it at the end. Last week, Colin and Paul and who was it from? Marie. Sorry, Marie. I was ate by a zombie, so I'm just starting to get my memory back. Marie from Two Girls, One Reusable Cup. I got it right. Reviewed Shaun of the Dead, an all-time classic. I was gutted I couldn't make it, but
yeah, it was a good one.
Aye, a good one. I was gutted one because I was just knackered last week, man. I just couldn't do it.
I've got to take breaks sometimes. And I was hanging out with the guys, the undead duo, Kenny Guffey and Jake C. Young, talking about their movie The Dark Room, which I really enjoyed. And the episode will be dropping tomorrow, although by the time you listen to this, it'll already be there, so go check it out.
Aye, so I'm looking forward to that, Colin. So again, that's another one I didn't show for. It was just
can't win them all. Can't win them all.
Aye, so I'm back here tonight. So next week, as Colin already said, we are Seismic Soccer 6. Is that right?
But it's 5.
Is it 5?
I feel like every time we do one, we.
I'm sure it's 6.
It's 5.
It's 5. Right, Seismic Soccer 5. And yeah, so if you want to listen to us ramble on about football, then please check us out. If you want to kind of discuss any topics in football, again, drop us a message and we'll consider that topic. Also want to give a wee shout out to Casting Views. I done a guest appearance on their episode, The Black Museum, which was a fun episode. I listened back to it. Quite enjoyed it. Did you enjoy it, Colin?
Yeah, I haven't listened. I'll be honest, I haven't listened to the full thing yet, but I did listen to about half of it.
Dare you.
And I've joined the club because I did my one of San Junipero with the same peeps.
Yeah, man. So, although San Junipero wasn't one of my favourites, man, but it's too nice. I like the dark dystopian ones, man.
It was the first one I ever saw. It's got nostalgia.
Aye. So the guys, Dan S and Dan P, were all good there, man. So thanks for having me on, folks. So if you like Black Mirror, then please check out Casting Views, man, because they are top drawer. Okay.
Good guys.
And there you go.
We believe in the power of escapism.
You just stole my line again, man.
Oh, are you going to do it?
He's ready to do it.
Oh, Paul can cut this bit, right?
Paul's got a lot of stuff to do. Right, okay, guys. Thanks very much for checking us out. Please like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Okay. Cheers now.